Well, folks, in today's video, we head on down to Merrickville, Ontario, Canada to check out Larkspur Line Train store. This was a short trip we went on back in April to check out some boxes of vintage locomotives they had recently acquired. Every time the store gets a new collection in, I always love to check it out because you never know what you're going to find, and quite often these boxes contain at least one or two gems, usually at pretty good prices. So anyways, let's head in and check it out. This first box contained a whole bunch of rolling stock, the majority of which was old lifelike and Tyco stuff. There really wasn't anything too out of the ordinary, so we decided to leave that box be and move on to the next one. Now this one mostly contained parts of somebody's layout. There was a lot of different track. There were some miscellaneous pieces of rolling stock, but the rest of it just turned out to be figures and stuff like that, and nothing I was personally interested in, so we decided to move on to yet another box. And this is where, in my opinion, we really struck gold. It was full of different vintage locomotives, like this old lifelike tea kettle with an NYC paint scheme. They had other things like this American tender, a 080 from AHM, an 040 from Lima. Then they had other things like this truck, which I think belonged to this old Santa Fe locomotive right here. A few other pieces in this box kind of caught my eye as well. They had this Canadian Pacific F unit from Lifelike, as well as a Bachmann F unit in a chassis system paint scheme, which looked pretty good. Now after that, we moved on to the box below it, and this turned out just to contain a bunch of different modeling supplies. There were some trees and bricks and just a lot of really random stuff, so we moved on pretty quick from that one. The second box contained a lot of similar things. There were some building kits, as well as a few miscellaneous pieces of rolling stock, like this autoloader here. By this point, we reached the last box in this stack, and this really just turned out to contain a lot more in terms of supplies. So we moved on to this area over here, and there was a bunch of different things that I just had to have a look through. There was kind of like this box with things like this floppy disk, which weren't too important. I did find this caboose kind of interesting. I have no idea what kind of display brand made it, but if anybody knows exactly what it is, please share it in the comments. I would be curious to find out. Now, these blue boxes did contain some pretty cool vintage rolling stock. I didn't dig into it because I'm not really on the hunt for any more rolling stock, but I did like also going through this box of different cabooses. This Rock Island one really caught my eye. I've always been a fan of that paint scheme. Just before we headed home, I decided to have a quick look through the display case of different used locomotives, and there was a lot of great stuff in here. Plenty of steam locomotives, lots of diesels, and even a Hawthorne Village Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart train set. Down towards the bottom of the display case, they also had some more Hawthorne Village stuff. I think it's HON 30, but I'm not entirely sure what set it belonged to. Another thing that caught my eye was this ABB set, all made out of brass. Then they just had a whole bunch of different vintage locomotives. These were slightly lower end, but all in pretty good shape. Now, I did end up buying some stuff on this visit, so we'll head home and I'll show you all the things I decided to purchase while I was here. Well, here we are back home, and here is the haul. I'm going to start over here with the cheaper stuff, and we'll slowly work our way over to the grand prize. Now, to begin, I bought a whole bunch of different tunnel portals, and I thought these looked really nice. Apparently, they were out of an estate, so they were off somebody else's layout, and they're going to be absolutely perfect, in my opinion, for an upcoming project, which is going to be building a layout for a friend's son. I hope to start that project really soon and get it done by early December, and I think these are a solid step forward to that project. I've already got a ton more supplies, but I have been looking for some tunnel portals, and I thought that these all looked pretty unique in their own right. Some of them need to be painted, but that's no big deal. And a lot of these ones were the same, and they were all being sold for about, $5 Canadian each, which really didn't seem too bad. Now, I didn't buy a whole lot from the box of vintage locomotives because, frankly, I have quite a few of those on my hands, but one thing I couldn't resist was this little lifelike tea kettle. I've always been a big fan of these. They're not very well-made locomotives, unfortunately. They're notorious for stripping out their gears, so I decided to buy this one just to see if it would be a runner, and if it's not, we'll try to fix it, because I was successful at fixing the last one I took on, so I figured, why not buy another and see if we can bring it back if it isn't already damaged. Now, as for the brass locomotives, which I spotted in the display case, I decided to buy the entire lot. I just thought this looked so cool. It's got a whole built-in lighting system right here. I don't know when these would date back to. I'm guessing they're probably from about the 40s, just judging by the shape. Maybe they're a little bit more modern, but if anybody knows anything about these, please let me know. The price tag was $100. They didn't charge me that much because, unfortunately, one of the wheels, I think it was one of the rear ones, is completely loose. Yeah, it's that one right there. So it's going to need some work, but I'm always up for a project. And I bought the 2 B units as well, and one of these B units is just a dummy. So over here, this is actually a powered model. So as a combination, you know, this might be a fairly strong set of locomotives. And now finally, we'll move on to the grand prize. This was another thing which I didn't show in the video, but they got a whole run of these new Via P42s. These have always been very special to me. I wanted one of these so bad when I was a kid, and eventually I did end up getting one. My parents found one on eBay. I ran the crap out of that locomotive, and it doesn't sound great anymore. It still runs, but I decided it would be nice to get a brand new one, which will be a little bit more smooth, a little bit quieter, and it has all the bells and whistles. It has sound and everything on it. So we'll get this thing out of the box here and take it over to the track and test it out. I'm really excited. I've always been such a big fan of these. And, well, there it is. Just look at that. This has got so much more detail than the original one I had. It's actually got a real cabin, which is pretty cool, like the horns and everything else. Very nice. Well, let's take all of these locomotives over to the track and see if any of them will start. Well, what do all of you think? Have we got some runners on our hands or a bunch of duds? Let's find out. Starting with the Lifelike Tea Kettle. I'm going to give this one a 50-50 chance. I mean, these things are just so notorious for destroying their gears. I think that it's quite likely it might have some problems, but hopefully the motor is still good. Let's find out. I'll put it on the track here, and I'll give it a little bit of power here. Uh-oh. Yeah, so I can hear the motor making some noises, but unfortunately this locomotive does not want to run. Yeah, it's completely locked in place. So the fact that it's humming is a good sign. At least the electrical system's working to some extent. But yeah, surprise, surprise, it's got some sort of a problem, likely with the gearbox. Hopefully we can print some gears for this thing and fix it up. The last project was quite a success, but yeah, it'd be cool to try some new things with this thing and hopefully get it riding the rails for the first time in probably many years. Anyways, on to the next locomotive. Now, this is supposed to be a runner, so I think it is going to start. Of course, it does have that bad wheel, which, you know, I got a discount because of, so that's kind of cool. We'll see if it's in good mechanical shape. I think it's got a Verney drive, but I'm still not 100% sure on that. And if we give it some power here... Uh-oh. Second time today. Got high current draw. Oh, there we go. That's a really cool lighting system it's got there. I love the red and the green on it. This thing's lit up better than a Christmas tree. Yeah, I guess it was just seized in place from sitting for a little while, but honestly, it doesn't seem that bad. So yeah, it's great to see. With a little bit of work, I'm sure we could turn that into a great locomotive. Now we'll test out the B unit. I'm obviously only going to test out this one because the other one's just a dummy unit and there aren't actually any couplers yet, so that's another thing I'm going to have to add on to this set at some point. But if we get this set up on the track, hopefully it will start up. Yeah, wow, no hesitation on that one. It's actually pretty smooth. Yeah, it's a little bit noisy as all locomotives from this era are, but current draw appears to be about where it should. I think we can safely call that one a success. And now finally onto this beauty right here. Since it's such a nice locomotive, I think I actually want to go and get the LRC cars and pull them around the layout with it. I think it's going to run like an absolute dream, so let's get to that. I believe I put those in a storage somewhere around here. Holy crap, this thing is loud. That's awesome. Well, let's get it moving here. What a beauty. Running one of these things on the layout again is just so nostalgic for me. I just love to see it. Anyways, I think that's going to be about it for today's tour and haul. I hope you all enjoyed, and with that, I just want to thank you all so much for watching.